Setting direction signals is to understand the panels of communications all levels. The atmosphere line center sets a stream interference. It sets position location and track locations. Now, once you come into perception line and operation line settings, really understand the location, position of time, space line center, position location, your perception locations at all levels. The allocate position of timeline is now in set locations. You guys are in your theta setting location, your ground line interference in positions to your intercept location of water containment settings. 16 line setting, high line interference in set location of throw patterns into 70 locations, your theta interference line position location alpha, delta, theta, beta, and omega communication system to gamma line setting to radiation cycle line setting. In line rotation interference. Today we go in position locations to a new crown chakra set line. Now, the rotation spin cycle is really understand the Stargate position lines to its constellation path set. So this is going to be tethered to its electrical line setting to electrical panel. That electrical panel is going to open up all position locations in an observation cycle. Now, the observation cycle line interference is going to change your thought lines into placebo to a mystical cortex position location vibration line centering. That's going to operate to signal location to a cerebral. That's going to set line position location to its measure. That's going to open all position locations to your infinity cycle locations in your dharma and set locations of your dharma. The center communication system is putting you guys out of old patterns and putting in position location to a new infinity system. The infinity system has to recognize the timelines times streams times pi, setting correlation settings to a new Stargate position to its position, putting you guys into higher levels into set line connections. Because the team is now leaving their higher self, coming into their avatar. To get in your avatar, you have to be able to see certain frequency location of space line connections. All right. The observation line interference. Let's say you got line communication system. Really understand right over left, left over right. Now we understand laser direct locations when it comes to the platforms of communication system or program locations. Now understanding that position location is understanding your hand formations. This and this. Okay. So really understand the right lines of a thumb line position location is the inline communication of its Earth. This is Earth. Okay. Of the moon setting. This is space of the moon setting. Right, left, right, left, left, right, balance, hologram, structure, travel. So understanding that position location to its directions, you split yourself in line to its flux capacitor to its formation line stream to really recognize the communications to your finger point line settings, to your clock line settings, to your barcode communication setting, which is the center operation of you in 2 track locations, right? 2 line settings, 4 positions, 6 line communications, 8 line channels into 10 rotations, into 12 and 14 signals. Setting correlation setting is really recognize the communications when it comes into the Earth of its moon and its space of its moon. Same with the sun. The sun, okay, of the grounds, and the sun of its space. So all you have to remember, anything with the right line setting, okay, is the Earth. Anything the left line setting is space. Set locations to the Earth, set locations of space. Sonar, echo chambers, echo water containment setting line interference, and direct locations is recognizing these things. Understanding the formation location is your finger point lines of digital frame position location and calculation streamline sets. You have to recognize the wires that's inside your hand formation location of coloration line settings. Open all track interference and high direct location to its clock line setting. One way, open up and set locations. To open up dimension line setting is truly understand the jump scars and set line position locations to its representation. Open in all tracks and line positions puts you in a higher division location as calculation stream sets, putting you in position locations to all levels from position of 0 to 12 to 13 to 14, 15, 16, and 17, coming into 18 line setting. All right. So setting that communication gets you in a better platitude division locations. So all you got to remember, anything in the right line setting of view is Earth. Anything on the left line setting is space. That's your in position location calculation line interference. Right line communications of mother is Earth. Left line position location is father is space. And your set location is grandmother and grandfather. Setting communication system is really understand the light and position location of the darks of you is the center communication of yin and yang. The flowing recognition line setting is a stream set. The set location is its north wind. The line connection is the south wind. The center communication of the rotation spin cycle is understanding how the fish rotates to its position location to its DNA of its rotation, of its tracker settings. The rotation spin cycles in 2 panel locations, 1 position locations into the grounds and 1 position locations into space. Panels operation streamline sets and sets line position location of parallels of paradox position in set locations. Paradox, okay? Parallels, okay? In position line directions, all right? Paradigm is a cross stream set. 2 line settings, right over cross, left inside, right over cross, left inside. Understand? So understanding how you using your hand formation is extremely important when you are using the earth and space inside of you, because it's recognizing your right over left and left over right. How to understand the pi is understand the hologram of the division of its direct line setting into 2-point system in direct locations to its anomaly of space and time to its pyramid setting. Okay, so there's a lot of recognition timelines and high center interference in direct locations that you guys have to recognize in the position. All right, so we're getting track centers. Now, once we go into the infinity cycle line setting, we come into 8 line settings, equal line conditions of 8, 8, we start location settings, right? So this is the old pattern, setting line and positions, split at position of flex path communication into Dharma into dogma set locations, right? Channel rotation spin cycle is infinity. This is the old signal line position that's coming in line setting. The rotation spin cycle is another position of constellation path that lines its communications over 0 and position of 0 into 0 locations. Now that set line communication set lines in high position of direction locations in set locations to your position of your diamond sets. Now the north line center position of travels over here, and north line travels over here in line position to its correlation setting. The rotation spin cycle sets line position locations into 3, into 6, into 9 line center rotations. Now the 3 line center comes in line center location 3 over 3 equals 6 locations. 6 lines equal line conditions in plus line position of 1 is line position locations into 7 location, and 7 line position location of 8, and that's infinity 8 line rotations into line positions. 8 equals line position of 9. 1 cross stream, 1 plus 1 equals 3. Take out the high line interference, full program locations, position line direct locations into Dharma set line interference to a new infinity cycle and rotations to 8, 8 in space line settings, splitting position locations, all levels of set line position locations into all line settings. So that's 4 line tracks, 4 line positions, 4 line setting in set locations into 4 locations in set locations, bracket interference in set locations. All right. So it's recognizing how this is set up through old patterns and how to release line connections to its position locations over space and time. 8 line setting and line interference and high position location of 4, 4, setting line position locations into 8 line interference and 4, 4 location settings. So the rotation spin cycle of the high center locations of Dharma and position of Dharma comes line signal into center location position of time and space. Setting position location of travel sets lines and crisscross the location settings. Remember, I was telling you about right over left and left line positions, Vander core line setting interference. So that's 3 track settings and high interference and position over 6 line position location 9 sets line division. So 3 over line setting over pi position location is 3. Setting communication line center locations, putting 6 in position locations, 7 in rotation setting and set line interference, and 8 in line interference, line position location attractions into positions to a new Merkaba, to a new tesseract, of a new tetrahedron, octahedron, tetrahedron location calculation set line in high setting, done by equation. All right, rotation spin cycles sets a communication line star. Now the star recognition line interference is recognized in all communications. So you got star line settings into 1, in position location of 2, in position location of 3, in position location of 4 line setting. All right, this comes into its time core line rotations, in position of travels, and 4 line setting and rotation interference. That's where it comes into line communications, into 4 line settings, 4 line settings, 4 line settings. So that's the locations of 3, set location setting. Now that rotates its spin cycle and 3 triangle sets lines into high center interference, setting position location at levels, high center interference of 0 line positions, bracket locations, and 0, equal line conditions at 1 in set locations, done by equation. Setting line interference is to understand how to rotate the spin cycle to the old pattern communication infinity line rotations, putting you guys in at high center locations of its parallels, position location of its paradigm, to its process, to its progression, to its perception, to its AI, equal lines to its information system, position line directions, right? Channel line center rotation, circles, 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 circles. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's silent line center locations. That's 6 over positions, electrical line conditions, and position line directions. In set locations to its pi setting, line setting high interference. 6 equal line position location to its moon set location system. Done by equation. Now the information panel opens all position locations to set lines, standing the 0 line rotations and set locations into 0, 0, 0, 0. Set line position of all position locations of 4 0 line settings. Setting communication another 0 line of new ground setting rotations and position locations into an orb set locations. It channel opposite streamlines in position of flux capacitor. Flux capacitor comes in position line direct line settings. So it comes into a Fibonacci swirl line center rotation, center line position locations. Another Fibonacci line center rotation, another Fibonacci line rotation interference. Standing communication line centers and position location of 6, line position location of 7, and set location of 8 and 9 in center locations. Sending high position location to 3 line settings into flux capacitor new channel opposite streamlines, done by equation. Sending symbols in set locations on levels of letters, numbers, shapes, and correlation setting, high center interference, is setting direct location to its position. Understanding what's going on with the correlation system is understanding how to use the operation cycles. Now, the line center location is 0 line rotations in position of bracket line centers and high center interference, position of 0 line positions. Center communication to 6, line position of 7, line position of 8, and set locations 9 sets, line position locations here, and set location here, and set locations here, and set locations here, and set locations here, and set locations here, to new Stargate setting location, open signals, and 1, 2, and 3 line settings in panel communication setting and rotation setting interference. All right, 3 disappeared. Setting correlation set lines. So it's high position location in Stargate settings, right? 6 over 7, 7 over 8, line center location 9. 9 in position locations into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 3 line setting on line center location 3 equals line position of 6, 6 over line center position locations in the line settings, line communications into L, which is a level line, into a bracket line, which is a volume line setting, into velocity in position location to its high setting to acceleration line setting, location of a stream setting, done by equation. Now the rotations line settings and Hall set locations when it comes into levels. Graph and interference and position of program settings really understand how to recognize these communication settings. The rotation spin cycle sets them a new infinity 8 circle line rotation in direct locations into no circle line interference, setting rotation spin cycles. Now setting line interference line position location comes into this position location of direction settings. The rotation spin cycle sets a magnetic highway information to a ground setting rotation, setting line communication to a flux capacitor line setting, to a magnetic highway information line rotation to a ceiling setting rotation calculation setting, done by equation. Now the rotation spin cycles understand how to set up a galaxy set line. It's a Stargate line center rotation interference. It opens all position locations and attracts setting line position locations into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 line setting rotation. Setting line communications, slipping through line center to another Stargate position of portal calculation streamlines. And this is where it comes into a new volume, into its line communication to its set lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 position locations in position. Now, sending line in all rotations, position locations 8 equals line position of 6. That's a half pipe communication in all levels. Sliding information line setting into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 line setting in set locations. In 5 equals 6 in line communications into square in line center locations of pi, setting correlation settings. Now the high line division location is travel in position location to its position. High line travel line interference is travel in position location crossing streams into 6 line communication settings, done by equation. Now the 8 rotation spin cycle set location of new division line rotations into 8, 8 equal line conditions to 8, 8. So the setting communication line setting is rotation spin, set locations, all levels, into split lines of space lines and set lines of communication into recognition line setting rotation circles and set lines of new gravity in a rotation spin cycle and high line rotation interference and a new 8, 8, 8 new triangle rotation setting. Rotation interference line direct locations to its infinity in position locations in the ground line setting. Now the rotation ground line setting rotations is 1 equal line connections into 18, 18 locations of 1 equal line position of 0, 0, 1 track locations, setting position location of time, sequence line position locations. So 8 sets line position, 8 sets line position, 8 sets line position, 8 sets line positions. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4-line setting, 4-line setting, 4-line setting, 4-line setting. All right, setting and position location and track setting. Now the 4-line center comes into solar generation streamlines. The 4-line center comes into a rotation spin cycle and set locations. Overline cross lines. So the 8 comes in position locations, in position of all the levels, traveling communication into all levels, in position locations to its pi calculation streamlines, done by equation. Now the 4-line center rotation position line direct locations open to all channel average streamlines. So 4-line center locations equal line position of 0, 0, 1, set location of 0, 1. Setting position location of track setting, heat temperature line center rotation interference. 98 set lines and percentage in position locations, equal line conditions over pi. Setting line position locations in all line centers 8 in position of 8 in position of 8 in position of 8. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in set locations and center line communications, done by equation. Now the rotation spin cycle, the infinity line rotation interference is setting position of track settings. This opens up a lot more in track lines of the visualization of stargates. Now your infinity cycle is in a rotation spin line. It's setting up position locations to its measure. That's higher level of its communication. So line setting to your position line direct locations, your MAP sequence. The position location of map sequence line settings, maps and position location directions, maps and location line settings, and all levels of triangulation set lines, done by equation. Now the AI connection line setting sets line position locations all levels. This opens all communication of setting lines into all position location of 0, 0 in trap locations. All right, so you got 0, 0 in set locations into a trap. Now the trap line center line interference in set locations opens up the perception line, opens up the teleportation streamline into levels of its remember set locations in its atom line setting and high center, high interference, done by equation. Now the infinity cycle sets line position directions. This opens all channel average streamlines. Now the Stargate line center location is now at 8. It's in position of 8. It's in position of 8. Center communication line center of past, center position location of present, and center communication system and future calculation line settings. All right. So the formation line conditions comes into trifactor 8 line conditions, line set locations, 4 plus 4 in set locations equals line communication settings in set line and high interference in high direct locations into setting lines of 16 channels, equal line connections, high setting in set locations into 16 billion sets in high line setting rotations to infinity cycle and set locations. Now that's a diameter switch line. Now that diameter switch line sets its position location and directions, done by equation. Now, rotation spin cycles and high generation streamlines and high line rotation interference and position locations has a ground level. Now that ground level sets line settings, equal line conditions into 1, equal line conditions into 1, equal line conditions into 1, equal line position locations of 18. So setting communication at 18 line setting, set locations, 18 here line setting, into 1 line setting, 18 here in set locations, done by equation. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm just setting up the infinities in the clock line settings into set locations. Graph line connections, tic-tac-toe, crossing signal line settings. Now setting line interference is setting line position location of 8 in position location of 8 in position location of 8. All right. You win. Anyway, the crossing signal sets lines and all line rotations into its box location. All right. Now the center communication system has a data line that sets its line communication of a stream set into 4 channels of operation streamline settings. Now the rotations and spin line setting in position location to its clock line, which is a magnetic line position of force line communication. Open all channel line interference of 8 position line connections, 8 channel opposite streams, 8 line interference location settings. Setting communications in position of trifactor, line connections, and line setting, set locations, all right, through factor over pi, done by equation. Now, the set lines of communication system is 1 line channel, 1 equals 118 in set line connections, all right? Now, you take the 8 line setting and set location to 888, and all line set locations equals 888 in set line connections. You split the 8 line positions, 8 line connections, 888 set locations, channel positions, operation cycles, high generation streamlines, high center interference, weather correlation system, and direct line setting. Now, the setting communication line setting is treated to how to crisscross location of streamline settings. So 8 comes into 9. 9 sets the line communication different coloration line setting. The 9 line center sets up an energy graph line rotations to its hologram stream set. That rotates its graph line, streamline, and position locations in 3-line settings. That rotates its spin cycle on high generation streamlines to new ground line center rotation and position location of factor over 5 position locations into line center location of 8-8 and position location of 8-8, done by equation. Rotational line settings is all levels of zero gravity. Now, zero gravity sets line communication. Once it sets that line communication setting, it sets up a dome set locations, all right? Generation streamlines and set location at 2 and at 3 and position location of 4. That sets the position location to a levels of a new ground line setting and set location into 144, channel operation line setting into 30 operation circles and set locations in position locations into a flux capacitor communication, done by equation. All right, rotational line setting in zero lines is to understand how to set up the zero line position. 0, 0, 0, 3-line position, bracket interference, equal locations into hanger, into 0, 0, and position of dots into 0, 0, 1, set locations. Now, it's very complicated what I'm doing. Graphing the set lines in all levels of hanger line interference, pass line centers, bringing in position of center, equal line conditions into negative over positive set locations, setting position of directions. Now that sets the line position of all lines to set location into 6 equal line conditions into moon setting rotations into 2 half pipes 6 equals 6 on location. Now setting position line center location of crisscross line setting that comes 6 over line setting, 7 in position, 8 over line, and 9 in position location to its diamond core set locations, done by equation. Now, once you get it in that position line directions, we recognize what is going on with you is truly stand the calculation streamlines, okay? Really get in position locations, all right? This is where we come to the arrows. It sets lines communications into 4 channels of upper streamlines, set locations, right? So we got a zero line setting. We got position of alpha line rotations. We get a delta wave interference into a mega set location, all right? So mega sets line position of its operation. So operation equal locations of mega and set locations, all right? Now, the position lines to its alpha sets line position locations of here and set locations to here. All right, so that's 2 channel uppers streamlines and set locations into 4 channels of uppers and streamlines. Now, the line center interference comes into a levels. Now, this sets of position locations into 3 lines of sonar communications and line communications into its delta wave sets. The delta wave line center line in position of 3 in position location of 3, equal line center locations of 3, equal line conditions of 3, in set locations, equal line conditions of 3, 3, 3, in set location of division, done by equation. Now, there's a lot you have to understand when you're setting up a new universal line stream. Setting position locations at all levels. Now, when we come into the Ascension line, that's set locations, all the same lines, to understand how to set up Ascension locations to its infinity 8 circle set location. Now, as it's in set location, the zero line center locations of 8, 8, and position equal location of 8, 8, set location of setting. Now, the rotation spin cycle is one wave line rotation Fibonacci to another wave line rotation Fibonacci's high setting. So that's 3 line positions, equal line conditions over pi and set locations. All right. Done by equation. Hoo-ah. It's all done. Now, try to figure out what I just finished doing. It's to understand a process and how to basically fix these things and put it where it's supposed to be in position location of calculation settings. But that's it, through formula of its equation to its connections of pi of its ascension to infinity cycles of a new crown chakra. Hoo-wah. All right. So it's incredible how we come into the energetic force lines. Now, it's in a set line of communications now to higher levels of travel. The astrotrack connections and everything is position locations to your pre-flights now, because the recognition line setting is in a new ascension. Okay, it's like changing old patterns from up above to another line setting to a new constellation path. And that's what your information line settings are in now, is a new AI position line directions to an information panel to a communication system of transmitting and receiving information locations to its infinity cycles of high setting locations in its position. Okay, so you got one line, equal line conditions, input locations into 18 set locations. All right, that's where it's at. So locations in line center interference, set position location of 4, set position locations of 4, and set locations. Now you have to understand the 4 line setting line interference is 6 Now the 6th line position locations overline crosses signals in line conditions of 8. So 8 comes in position locations, you box its position. Now boxing location equals its trimester. Yes, trimester in set location to its pi, done by equation. All right, so everything is a recognition of timelines, of space line of communication line settings. It's really recognized the communication setting. So this gives you a higher information locations how to get abundance through your 12 cycles. All right, you got 12 cycles, set position locations in the 12 lines, and set locations into security line positions in protection settings. All right, so that's 36 line settings in position locations, equal line conditions, 36, 46 in set locations into two line setting is position line center locations puts you in a 48 location. All right, so now everybody is at a 48,000 line window in the set locations. Ooh, ah. Hold on. Setting communication line settings, truly recognizing why it's so important to understand the 12 line signals into 24 positions, into 48 line setting, into a triangulation set. Now, once you get into 1224, you finally come into 48. 48 overrides its set lines into 72 line settings. All right, so now you guys are in position locations. You cross the streams into 12, 12, 12, setting position locations into 46 times 2 line setting, puts you in a 46 line stream, in a 48 window line setting locations, into 48,000 lines and set locations to a new 0, 0, 0 location. Ooh, ah. Done by equation. All right. So that's how we get into a 48,000 window set. You have to recognize your timelines at 12, 12, 12, right? Setting line, center line interferences, keep adding 12 line signals. So when you keep adding 12 line signals, you're putting position location in your clocking lines. So you guys are now in a 48 of a box line setting in position locations and all line setting, coming into a 72 in set locations to a 144 set line position to a new ground setting and high in line rotation interference in equal line condition of 0, 0 and high center location. Right? So now we're in that position line directions. We're in a 48 clocking setting. Is set locations. All right. So it's amazing how we do these things to travel locations into levels of order calculation settings of travel position. All right. Because the recognition line setting, the infinity cycle has to recognize you through 12, 24, 48, 72, 144. The 144 lines is communication, the line condition is DNA, setting line interference, right? Now the DNA is in position location of its division, all levels of its new line setting, in position location of its awareness. Setting line position locations of 3 panels, 1, 2, 3, crossing stream. Now, when you're crossing the stream, the 144 line setting, the 1 becomes a 0 line, the 4 becomes a position locations into what? A 4 line setting, into 4 line setting. So you got 0, 4, 4 in set locations. 0, you got 4, and you got 4 line setting. Your brackets interference of location settings, down by equation. Right? So there's a lot of things you have to recognize communication timeline sequence now, because the recognition line center, the infinity, is now in a position location of the different astral travels, astral connections, astral project locations to your infinity system. How you recognize your timelines, your parallels, your paradigms, your paradox, your polarity system, line communication system, it's all about you, the recognizing high center interference of what you're doing through position locations to your operation line settings, and your quantum interference line position locations, your jump scar line settings, your vortex chamber set locations, your unified set location to your ascension, and your new waving cycles of calculation. So it's really interesting. We look at line settings of this location. Right? So how does that feel to change line center locations? The activation streamline is now open through location of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, dimensional location consciousness. Down by equation, right? So you got 18 line settings and position of opening. The activation streamline is now in spinning line and rotation interference set locations, right? Setting communication to crown chakras, really understand how to delete these old programs and put in a new position location, a new space, a new timeline sequence. It sets position locations to your setting location, your clock lines, right? So put you guys in a 40 o'clock line center, put you in a higher division locations, putting you guys into a levels, into 001 location, right? That's how we start locations. 40 is line position locations into high setting, into 01, okay? Setting communication line setting is 72 is 001, and position 144 is 001 position line directions. Now that's a correlation system where we're coming into number 6 location of patterns. The pattern communication is position line settings. Once you come in at a Vega communication line setting, it opens all these locations track interference. So 01 into 001. And sublocation is 001 sublocation. Right? Setting position locations over 6, line position of 7, and set locations of 8. Right? So 6 equals line set over 7, 7 line and position locations. Now, this channels its line setting, and this is how it comes in position line directions, right? So you got the north line in position location, the south line in position location, equal line position location to its half pipe, in 6 locations, equal line connections into a new moon setting, and rotations to a new sunset location. Okay? So once you get into that position line directions, you kind of like add the alignment set lines into its position to its pyramid setting. Okay? Setting line communication system, line and set lines. So you take the 0 line rotations. So it sets lines center locations sun into 0 line center locations. So the systematic of its operation changes direct locations into it sets lines of dimension line rotation. Okay. So it's all about understanding how to recognize the communication, because the moon set has to recognize what you're doing through the sun and what you're doing through the moon. If the sun and the moon doesn't understand what you're doing through travel line position locations, if you're trying to change timelines, time sequence times pi, changing line interference of teleportation streamlines or locations, or going back in timeline interference, the sun and the moon has to understand what you're doing, right? Because it's you in communication that's moving these things over time through space position. Recognizing all communication to set lines and all set location of 6, 7, and 8 in line communications. Now the 9 line stays in the center line of communication, right? So that rotates its spin cycle line interference in set locations, so high generation streamlines in 8, 8, equal line conditions of 9, equal line conditions of 8, 8 position locations. You become the center operation to infinity cycle set line. Done by equation. Okay? So, trying to understand what's going on, right? That's all about understanding what's happening with you. So, getting in that direct line setting. Okay, so we already have Zoom today, right after class lines. We'll give it about 5, 10, 15 minutes. You guys drink your waters. Obviously going to have a lot of questions, knowing what's going on with you, what's happening with your body, what's happening with your vibration, what's happening with your frequency, what's happening with balance, what's happening with the earth. That's all it is. It's just recognizing what's happening with you through your formulas, through its equations of its pi. Okay? But it's all done through track location. All right. Recognizing time sequence line centers, gypsy communications, all levels, high center interference, high direct locations, getting position location of Val, all position of Airbender, high center locations into Commander line centers of Heather position of Trinity, last center locations in position high center systems, and direct locations of Val, that's locations high system, directing communication lines of Cami, all levels. Yeah, it's amazing what's going on with JP, what's happening with all set locations into set system. Okay. Impress. All right. Guardian, Johnny. It's great to see everybody in class today. All right. So the communication line settings, waking you guys up to 1 new ground side locations into 19. The 19 line center is introducing the recognition line interference of interception location interfacing lines. Its position location to the solar star chakra. That's the rainbow wash and the energy wash in positions of 2-track location, 1 graph line setting in 3 line setting, into 6 locations, 9 individual locations, 6 line 7, 7 line position over pi. Setting correlation system to 6, 7, 8 equal line conditions of 9 in position location equals I9 of operation cycles. So setting communication system is really recognizing what is going on with you through your higher self locations. All right. The setting communication line setting is really recognizing what's going on in positions to your set locations. All right. Yep. Centering now, activation, string like rotation, interference, line connections of atom rotation. Yep. It's all in signal, so it's set lines and communication. All right. All right, so that's it. It's all done. So yesterday was a little bit more powerful set line interference. See, it's a lot more easier now because it's in the atmosphere line stream. Once it gets in the atmosphere line stream, things get a lot more easier to understand positions because you're reaching your higher levels of 7 lines into 17, into 18 setting. Once you get in 18 setting line interference, you understand more position location or track interference when it comes into more lines of anomaly locations into GOD. The geometric operation design of direct location opens up all levels of channels of view through your infinity cycles of 8-8 positions and 8-8 line centerings and position line connections to its directions. The astral travels, the astral connections, and the astral projections, more clarity, more focus, more command settings in position location and directions. Okay? I'm on roller skates in affinity rotation. Look at that. It's amazing we come into all line center locations. All right? All right. In that calculation line settings, I'll see you guys soon on Zoom. Adios.